Henry Armstrong would redefine fighting.
He is the only fighter in history to hold 3 world titles at one and the same time.
He had this style. I mean, he was a punching machine.
Fighters like Armstrong are pure hell.
My favorite fighter was Henry Armstrong.
Muhammad Ali had a generation of tall men trying to fight floating.
He moved right out of the way of it. Mike missed by quite a bit. The key to the fight will be tighter.
Getting $50,000 for this fight is 10 times greater than the biggest previous.
That same level of technical influence Ali had on the back foot, Henry Armstrong developed on the front. A man of many nicknames, Henry Armstrong was best described by the moniker Homicide Hank. He fought every second of every fight in a desperate attempt to leave a body.
Armstrong then really applying the pressure here.
He would pile his victims into the triple digits, but no man starts such a monster. Henry was half Iroquois and half black, and was born in Mississippi. As a child, his family left behind the sharecropper cotton fields for the more tolerant and prosperous cities. Henry ended up in St. Louis. He was a good student, graduating with honors, but Henry knew his heart wasn't in academics. Henry was driving railroad spikes for pennies per day, read an article about Kid Chocolate making $75,000 to fight in Madison Square Garden. Working his day job, it would take a century to make that kind of money. From that moment on, he felt compelled to chase a dream and put himself through a different sort of school. Long before he was Homicide Hank, humble Henry Armstrong had some hell to go through. In his first professional fight, Henry got knocked out cold. He made $35, but $35 in the hellish year of 1931 was the difference between starving and still alive. He lost, but he learned. He kept himself afloat in the dark and desperate days of the Great Depression by fighting as often as possible. He might be eating punches, but at least he was eating. Henry put that big brain to work and learned the tricks of his new trade. He found all those punches don't quite hurt as much if his opponent can't plant his feet.
Tenía su oportunidad, disputaba una corona mundial, en esta ocasión del peso welter.
He drew the conclusion that if he just kept his man on the retreat,
So little Henry Armstrong then has worked ever so hard for this, and he'll get it.
or better yet, planted with his back to the ropes,
Of course, the one thing that Barney Ross does.
well, Henry had little to fear. If his opponent couldn't effectively transfer weight, then he couldn't hurt him.
Having been the featherweight champion.
Henry grew into the high king of head control. His entire style centered around getting up close, digging his forehead into an opponent's collarbones to collapse their stance and pin them on the ropes.
Once again, really applying the pressure here. And what on earth can Barney Ross
From there,
do?
Henry's short reach and stocky build turned into advantages. He grew from a passable journeyman learning the ring to a new type of terror. Henry, outside of the ring, was humble and genuine. But once you step through those ropes with Homicide Hank, you are dealing with a heat-seeking missile made of antimatter with a brilliant body attack. You could run, you could fight, you could clinch, but nothing was going to stop him from what he was here for, to turn a 20-by-20 ring into a claustrophobic coffin. He relocates to LA, and by the mid-30s, Henry is unbeatable. Everyone knew what he was going to do, and you couldn't do a thing about it. He fought at a frightening pace.
Roderick is trying to take a breather, and Armstrong piles on the pressure.
Not just in the ring. He fought as often as 3 times a month, sometimes twice a week. The entire second half of the decade was a road trip that ended in a fistfight that he inevitably won by knockout. In December of 1936, Henry accidentally hits Tony Chavez in the groin so hard, Chavez rolls out of the ring and is carried back to the dressing room. Henry lost by DQ. It would be his last loss for years. From 1937 to the middle of 1940, Henry fought 45 men. The vast majority of them are at or near the top of their division. Henry knocked out over 40 of them. In his 94th pro fight, he knocked out featherweight champion Petey Saron. After winning the title, Henry immediately began fighting at lightweight. Henry had bigger fights he'd rather have with bigger men. He'd knocked out 13 of the first 14 lightweights he faced.
But now the end is inevitable.
For reasons I can't understand, the featherweight champion, who'd been primarily fighting as lightweight, is given a crack at welterweight champion Barney Ross.
You may remember that Barney Ross beat Jimmy McLaren for the welterweight championship.
Barney Ross was a brilliant champion. Just like Henry, Ross fought almost every weekend during the Depression, 73-3 coming in, and hadn't lost a fight in over 4 years. Ross was a tough and wily outside fighter, known for his stamina and savvy.
Barney Ross, not a huge puncher, but a good boxer.
Henry Armstrong, obviously outsized, was anything but outgunned.
See the massive size difference between these two men? Armstrong, as we've seen many times in the past, a very busy fighter. But the big question is, of course, can he come up from the featherweight division and reign supreme?
Henry fought without a plan B. He didn't need one.
Of course, being the bigger man, that's a natural punch against a smaller fighter.
The fight was competitive, but only at first.
Can Ross match Armstrong for speed? Barney Ross in action against Henry Armstrong, the reigning world featherweight champion.
By the mid-rounds, the great Barney Ross is being ground into kosher hamburger by the jumped-up featherweight.
Head and body, both hands. And we've seen in the past he's a tough man to nail.
Henry wasn't bothered by his power.
Got to do to win this. Lovely left hook again there from Armstrong.
Wasn't moved by his strength. Barney was just one big target that Henry couldn't miss.
And Barney Ross is getting absolutely worn out by this work rate. And terrific punching of Armstrong at times.
The world wanted it to stop.
What on earth can Barney Ross do? He can't stand back and box Armstrong off. His title looks to be hanging by a thread here against the featherweight champion of the world, Henry Armstrong.
After round 13, the ref asked Barney's corner to stop it. Barney begged his corner to let him carry on, and they did. Henry knew he had won the welterweight title.
Armstrong then has worked ever so hard for this, and he'll get it, I'm sure.
Barney stuck to his jab, and Henry allowed him to finish out the final 3 rounds of his career on his feet.
Cracking win for Armstrong.
Henry had leapfrogged the lightweight title to win the welterweight championship. But naturally, Henry felt like he had unfinished business down at 135. The match was made immediately with lightweight champion Lou Ambers. It was the typical death march Henry imposed on all of his opponents. He came forward whipping in those short, powerful shots on the inside. By the mid-rounds, Lou looked like he was breaking down. Dropped in 2 consecutive rounds, Ambers got up to give Henry a hell of a fight. Henry may have spent the second half of the fight swallowing blood, but he never took a step back. As the fight comes to a close, a split decision sits on judges' cards. A split decision that named Henry the only man to simultaneously hold 3 titles in 3 different weight classes.
Armstrong holds his title in a fight that winner and loser will remember, each with respect for the other, for a magnificent show.
From 126 to 147 pounds, there was no champion to fight Homicide Hank. Henry spent most of the next year defending his welterweight championship, despite never in his career approaching the welterweight limit. Post 7 straight defenses of the welterweight title with 5 KOs, which, as you might imagine, tied up the 2 weight classes below. Henry would finally boil himself back down to lightweight and take a rematch with Lou Ambers. Just like the first fight, it was an absolute war. A war with a referee who refused to keep out of it. Henry had points deducted 5 times throughout the fight For body punches, the ref deemed low. The deductions made it near impossible to win on a scorecard. Henry lost the fight by 1 point on 2 of 3 cards. Without the deductions, it's a clear win. Henry still held the featherweight and welterweight titles. But as time passed, the chance of Henry draining back down to 126 dwindled down to impossible. Instead, Henry decides to take a bigger chance. Henry's first title defense at 147 pounds came against a man named Severino Garcia. It was a close fight in the sense that Henry, despite giving up 10 pounds, gave Garcia better than he got. But when Garcia went up to middleweight and knocked out Fren Apostoli to become champion at 160, how could Henry resist? Winning 3 titles was unprecedented. Winning 4 was unthinkable. It was one of the oddest championship fights of all time. For unclear reasons, the fight was scheduled for just 10 rounds, with the referee having the sole decision on who was the winner. Henry Armstrong held 2 titles nearly 20 pounds apart, came into this title shot at the 160-pound championship weighing 142 pounds. According to every set of eyes ringside, Henry beat Garcia clean and clear.
They say that Armstrong doesn't beat you, he just runs you out of breath.
Y en esta ocasión se había elegido la distancia más corta, 10 asaltos.
New York Commission doctor at ringside has been closely watching Garcia's right eye. It's badly cut.
But referee George Blake declared the bout a draw. George Blake would never referee another fight. Henry would defend his welterweight title 5 more times, eventually losing it in a tough but clear decision to Fritzy Civic.
People are beginning to wonder whether Armstrong can keep up that amazing display of vitality.
Before Civic finished the job in a rematch. Henry's last great fight came as an old man against Sugar Ray Robinson. While no film exists, it's reported that Sugar Ray offered Armstrong the same dignity Armstrong once gave Barney Ross. Robinson could have knocked him out cold, but decided out of respect for a legend to give Henry the dignity of a standing defeat. When Henry finally retired, he basically fell off the face of the earth. He went back to St. Louis, became a trainer and preacher, but largely kept to his humble, unassuming self. Despite 181 professional fights, he spoke well into old age. His final record was 151, 21, and 9, 101 knockouts. His technique on the inside became the textbook for pressure fighters around the world. His influence grows over the years, like ivy over the facade of fighting.